Today in my messy garage I'm going to be changing the brakes on my E90. The brakes are a little sketchy right now on the front, so I'm going to change those. First thing I need to do, I've got some cars and other vehicles to move around. I'm going to try to do it in the far bay over here instead of right here, so I'll be right back. Okay, so now that I got the cars moved, I'm going to get this thing up in the air. So, here we go. Okay, so got the car on the lift and I've actually taken the lug bolts off. As you can see, the lift I'm using is actually a Quick Jack. I'm not sponsored by them, but Quick Jack, I would be more than willing to, you know, put a good word in for you, which I just did. So anyway, now I'm going to get this wheel up. I'm going to do the on the other side. I'm going to try to do these kind of at the same time, but I'll only video one because you guys don't need to see both. So let me get the wheels off. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking off the caliper, replacing these brake pads, also replacing these rotors. The rotors are gross. And they get really bad. They just collect all sorts of dust, rust, and everything else, and the brakes just work like crap. I don't drive this car enough, but hopefully with the new pads and rotors, it will brake a lot better. So first thing we're going to do, if you look on the back side of the rotor here, there's two dust caps. There's one down here I'm pointing to, and there's one right up here that I'm pointing to. Hopefully you can see those. And I'm gonna just pry those off. They come out pretty easily. Set them aside. You can use a screwdriver or anything else. So before you take the pins out, what you want to do is just push up on this spring and try to coax it out. What I'm doing is I'm putting pressure here, and then it'll come out like that. I believe I've got new ones of those, so I'm just going to set that aside for now. Now, let's take the pins out of the back side of this. And again, these pins are right under the dust covers that we took off earlier. Using a 7mm hex head. And they will unscrew, but then you kind of need to coax them out the rest of the way. See how loose the caliper is right now. Let's use Alright, once they come loose, you gotta coax them out a little bit, kind of wiggle them, and they should come out. And these are, that one is super dry. No excuse for that. And so is that one, jeez. Okay, so that's part of the problem we have with these brakes. Again, this isn't, I don't drive this car enough. Not making excuses, but I kind of am. I don't drive this car enough. These brakes were already on here when I got it. And they're not in the greatest shape. So I'm hoping that this brake job is going to make it drive a whole lot better. So one thing you want to do is make sure that you don't just let this thing hang from the brake line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple zip ties and just kind of make something I can hang it from. What we're going to do is just keep this kind of suspended out of the way. Again, not pulling on that brake line. Just get it out of the way for now while we can work on the carrier and getting this off and removed, and then it'll allow us to get the pad off, or the rotor off. So that's our next step. Taking the carrier off the back, we're going to use a 16 millimeter wrench. You want to use the 12 point if you can. That's usually going to get you a better bite on it and less likely to slip. So what I'm going to do is it goes on the back here. Hopefully you can see where I'm at on this camera. And then you just twist them off. There's 2 bolts that hold that on. Easier and quicker with this. Now this comes down, so we're trying to get off. This one's filthy, we're going to clean it up. Now next step is we're going to get, I believe it is a 6 millimeter, and I'm going to spin this off. This is your retaining bolt for the rotor. This notoriously will snap in a lot of cars. When I say a lot of cars, I've worked on Minis and BMWs, and if some people put them in there way too tight or they get way too corroded. So these have been known to snap, so don't be surprised. Make sure that you're fitting good in there, because if you're not, you can strip it out easy too, and that's not a good thing. This one's coming out actually pretty easy. And look at that. Another issue you have a lot of times is that the rotor will get frozen to the hub. I'm lucky that didn't happen here. But oh my god, this rotor's in horrible shape. So this is probably the worst rotor I've seen. And it's coming off of my car, so that's really embarrassing. So now we need to compress the caliper. And there's a bunch of different ways to do it. There's everybody's gonna have their own way, and people are gonna probably complain, but I'm gonna do it the ghetto way. And here's a C-clamp. Alright, got my much larger C-clamp. This is a bit overkill, I'm sure, but it's alright. It's a good time to always check the boots on your piston as they're going in. Make sure that they're not cracked, because that will wear your brakes out. You could have your brakes lock up on you. Not what you want to do. Alright, so this is not moving anymore. I'm assuming we bottomed out the piston, which is what we want to do. Once you do that, then it's just a matter of pulling that back brake pad out. It's held in with these clips, and then there's also the matter of the brake pad sensor. So that is out of the way. Brake pad sensor is out of the way. Again, I'm showing you on this side of the car because there's only one brake pad sensor for the front and one for the back, and it just happens to be on this side, so I figured I would do this one first. Alright, so next step, I'm going to take some anti-seize, put this on the hub, and then this should make it where we don't have our rotor getting stuck to it, which this one didn't, which is great, but I don't want the new one to get stuck. So I'm just going to put a layer all the way around it. So here's the new rotor. Going to put this back and line up the retaining hole. Okay, there you go. You don't need to put that on too tight. Actually, you don't want to put it on too tight. It's really just to hold it in place. The tighter you put that, the more chances you have of actually having an issue when it comes time to take it off. Alright, now for the fun, dirty part. I'm going to take this carrier and clean it up real well. I'm going to try to clean as much of the caliper and the carrier as I can, and then we're going to grease it, and I'll show you where I'm going to grease it. Then we're going to start reassembling it. Alright. What we've got here is, this is the old brake sensor. Alright, what we have here is the old brake sensor. I'm going to take this off. So you just kind of chase this around. There's a clip here that comes out. And then, as we go around this side, you can see that it's clipped in here as well. So I'm going to take that out carefully. I think I'm going to have to do some work on that with zip tape. Alright, and then there's right here, comes out there. We keep chasing it, and then you see when it comes here, comes out of that, and then there is this crud covered box that has some connections in it. So we're going to try to carefully open this. It opens from the bottom. Jeez, a lot of dirt in there. And you see the connections here. The top one, as it comes out, is we're going to disconnect this one and get ready to reconnect the new one. What you're going to want to do is just kind of push in there and then pull out. Be careful because stuff is, there we go. Yeah, I'm going to take 2 hands probably to do this. So you just push on this here, pull out, and then we'll put the new one in and we'll route it back the same way this one came out. Okay, we're getting close to getting done here. What I'm going to do now is I've got pads for the brakes. Let's set those in place for a second. Now, important note, the pad here that's flat, that's going to go on the front. The pad that's got the clips on it is going to go in the back side. Now this one has got a little indentation also on it. As we put this back into the caliper, we're going to also connect the brake sensor wire, which I have reinstalled the new one, and it is right here. So that's going to actually plug in like this. It's going to clip in there. I'm not going to do it yet because you want to have it going through the back side of the caliper first. What that does is when this thing actually touches metal, okay, so right now it's recessed in there into the pad. When it actually gets, the pad gets worn down enough where this touches the rotor, that's going to set your brake sensor off. So that's how it works. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clip this into the piston. The other thing, actually, you know what? The other thing we want to do is I'm going to grease the back side of this pad. So the back side of this pad. I'm going to put a little grease on these clips too to help them in a little bit. What I'd like to do is just put grease on everything that's going to be moving and touching metal. So that goes, don't touch the here with any grease. That goes for the sides that are going to be moving on the carrier. These little dog ears here. And the back. Again, don't get it on the brake material itself for obvious reasons. Smooth that around a little bit. Put my hands off a little bit. Okay. Got that in. It's time to clip our zip ties. Holding the caliper up, and we should be able to slide the caliper in place for now. Just hold it there. Now's the time we're going to actually take this pad, put some lubricant on that as well, same spots, the back side and the dog ears where it's actually going to be moving on the carrier. You're sliding up here. I just like to make sure that's got enough on there, because if not, you could sound like a school bus when you hit the brakes. Again, be careful not to touch the brake material itself. Pull the caliper off. There you go. The brake caliper is back in place. We've got hopefully enough lubricant in it. And make sure we get this in a good place. Alright, so now we want to make sure we got our pad sensor clipping in correctly. Okay, so now remember we had these the two pins. I'm gonna lube the jeepers out of these, put them back in. You want them to be able to go in there nice and easy. You want the caliper to be able to slide back and forth easy enough on these pins. So, and those just get inserted into the new rubber boots that you just installed or didn't install, depending on whether your pads and everything came with them or not. And then this last piece. Let's try it this way. We get one in. A couple different ways to do it. looks like it went in. Alright, so this side should be done. Maybe. I'll do the other one off camera, put the tire or the wheels back on it, and take it for a spin. Alright, thanks.